What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Cross Blades Podcast. I am your host, Samek, and this is my co-host, Neeko. Today is a very special episode because mainly him, are going to talk about Bleach.
Yes, I'm gonna talk and I'm going to rant. I'm gonna go all in of talking about Bleach because I love Bleach to death. All right. And specifically, this is my episode specifically, and then his episode is gonna be on G.I. Joe, and that's probably gonna be the next episode. So yeah.
And then after that, we're gonna both just nerd out over Lord of the Rings.
And Narnia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So where do I start with Bleach? Okay. For those who don't know, Bleach is a action fighting manga that was in Shonen Jump at the beginning of, I believe, 2001 all the way to 2018 or 17. I don't remember when it ended. I think it was 2018 or 17. Um, and it ran for over 10 years, and it's been known as one of the big three in the anime community. Now, people debate whether it's of the big three, but I am one of the people who say yes, it was, because One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach were one of the biggest heavy hitters in Shonen Jump for many, many years. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, I absolutely know practically nothing about anime, so I can't give you any pointers there.
Your anime repertoire would be Cowboy Bebop and what was the other one? Vinland Saga?
I mean, I grew up watching Sonic X, but I didn't even know what an anime was. I thought it was just a cartoon.
Yeah. I grew up watching Bakugan. And my first ever, as I've said in previous episodes, my first ever anime I really got into was Death Note. But yeah. But then I found Bleach and I fell in love with Bleach. So for those who don't know, Bleach follows the story of a young teenager who is 15 years old and a high school student with a orange carrot top hair, very spiky, named Ichigo Kurosaki. And let me tell you, his story is wild. All right. So, story of Ichigo Kurosaki. He is born with the ability to see ghosts. All right. Anyone
I see dead people.
that's disturbing.
No,
So
did you get the reference?
yes. I was referencing a YouTube poop where
Ah,
that was used. It's like I see dead people. That's disturbing. Uh,
sorry. Go ahead.
no, you're good. So with Ichigo, he finds his family attacked by what's known as a hollow. A hollow is a demon of this story. All right, they're basically demons. They are souls uh, that have not found their way to the Soul Society, which is a Japanese afterlife. Now, whether or not that's actually more accurate to what the Japanese believe, I have no idea. I'm an American. I'm just a stupid American. But
America.
America, F yeah. Anyways, so in the night, Ichigo is visited by a Soul Reaper named Rukia Kuchiki, and she, while trying to fight the Hollow, because it captures one of his sisters named, I believe, it's Karin and Yuzu. I believe in the manga, it's Yuzu who's captured, while in the anime the roles are swapped and it's actually Karin who's captured. I don't know why they made that change, but whatever, it doesn't matter.
It may have
Same.
been a mistake of like, oh, I forget which sister it was. I think it was this one.
It could have gone
I
to
don't
the
know.
original source material. I don't care. It may have been what Taiteku originally intended. I don't care. Anyways, same amount of peril anyways, because he loves both his sisters. So Ichigo tries to fight back the Hollow and fails ultimately and gets his sucker punched by a massive fist in the gut. And you know what's also interesting, in the anime he takes a chair to the guy, but in the manga he takes a bat. There's I know these little details and changes because I love it so much. Anyways, uh, in the process of getting hit by the Hollow, Rukia tries to intervene and gets injured by the Hollow by getting her arms and upper half of her body within the Hollow's mouth and bites down her and injures her severely. Now, she's not on the brink of death or anything, but she's too injured to fight, which later on doesn't make any sense because she's almost a captain level Soul Reaper. She's a lieutenant, for crying out loud. But beside the point, uh, she she says, "Do you want to save your family?" to Ichigo, and she says, "The only way how at this point, because I'm too injured to fight, is to transfer all of my Soul Reaper powers to you." And doing so, Ichigo transforms by having her Zanpakuto, which is a soul cutter. That's literally what translates to soul cutter. Or stabbing him with his sword into the chest, and all of her powers flow from her into him. With that, Ichigo becomes a Soul Reaper, and his sword is massive because of how much spirit energy he has within himself. So, with that, he defeats the Hollow, cuts off its leg and its arm, and cuts its face in half and all that stuff. It disappears, and that is the end of the first chapter of Bleach. I could go on, but I'm going to give some highlights of the story, and I'm just going to do like the basics of each individual arc of the stories, okay? Should I also talk about the fillers in the anime or not?
It's your episode. Go for it.
Okay. Specifically, there are my favorite story arc in Bleach probably would have to be the Soul Society arc, especially chapter 272, I think it is. I don't remember. It's around the 270 mark, where or was it? Or it may have been the 100s. I don't remember. But specifically, my favorite chapter is when Ichigo releases his Bankai for the first time while fighting Byakuya. That is one of the best fights in all of anime history, and just like it's so good. But with Rukia, she there's okay. So first arc is the Agent of Shinigami arc, or the substitute arc, on as the anime calls it, because he is a substitute Soul Reaper, while replacing Rukia and doing her Soul Reaper duties while she is recovering from her injuries and trying to get her powers back, trying to figure out how to get her powers back from Ichigo. And second is the Soul Society arc, where they go, where Ichigo and his friends, for Rukia, I'll explain that in a second. The second arc after that is the Arankar arc. Then after that is the Waco Mundo arc. Then Waco Mundo, then Bitkar Kuratown arc. Then the Downfall of the Arankar arc. Then the Lost Agent arc. And then the 1,000-Year Blood War. Those are the main arcs of Bleach. Condensed, basically. So, with that, by doing so, transferring her powers from Ichigo to her, and doing that power transfer, she broke one of the major laws of the Soul Society. Is number one, you're not supposed to interact with humans, for one, and you're not supposed to give your powers to a human. That is punishable by death. So, essentially, Rukia is found after Ichigo defeats several Hollows by the Soul Society, by her brother Renji. By another Soul Reaper named Renji, he's known as the Red Pineapple because he has a spiky ponytail and red hair, so he's known as the Red Spiky Pineapple. and by Byakuya, her brother. Byakuya, let me just tell you, he is one how do I put this? Byakuya is I wouldn't say a tyrant, but he's very cordial. He the way he talks is like serious, and nothing's funny to him. Basically, he doesn't laugh a lot. You know what I'm saying? His personality is just very, very serious.
Very dry, very straightforward, very serious.
Yeah, he's like that. So, in the process of trying to find Rukia, because Rukia leaves a letter for Ichigo to say, "Don't come after me, don't look for me, yada yada yada. Thank you for everything," because she's trying to go back to the Soul Society to prevent Ichigo from getting hurt, because he doesn't know how to use his Soul Reaper powers yet. So, in this process, Ichigo finds Rukia and Byakuya and Renji, and he overpowers Renji, even though Renji actually releases his Zanpakuto, Zabimaru, and literally injures Ichigo by literally slashing his shoulder open, literally, and stuff like that. And but even in that moment, Ichigo's spiritual pressure gets a massive boost because he's injured, and he overpowers Renji, and literally, I think does he break Zabimaru in that instance? No, he only broke it in the live action version. Yeah, he broke Zabimaru in half in the live action version. But he overpowers Renji. But the reason why Renji survives in that instance is because in one split second, Byakuya cuts off this blade of Ichigo Zanpakuto to save Renji from getting hurt. And in that instance, Byakuya cuts Ichigo down because of how fast he is. Because Ichigo doesn't know how to use something called Flash Step, which is like kind of like a teleportation move that Soul Reapers can do. So with that, Ichigo falls down to the ground, bleeding out, and he's found by Urahara, which is a character who's introduced in the first arc. In the first, I think he's introduced in like chapter 20 or something. And he trains with Ichigo later to go to the Soul Society, unlocks his Shikai, learns its name. The name of his Zanpakuto is Zangetsu. We also find out that he has hollow powers because he literally starts to hollowify and turn into a demon himself. Because his soul chain, which is something that is referred to souls and spirits, if it's severed, it starts to eat itself, called encroachment. And then if it gets through the entire chain, the hole in your chest starts to form, and you start to become a hollow. But of course, Ichigo overcomes that, and goes to the Soul Society with his friends, and yada yada yada. Okay, moving on to the Soul Society arc. Gonna be very brief about this because I'm trying to get to the very end. All right, I'm trying to go through each arc and condense it as best I can. Okay. You're being so silent.
Like I said, I'm handing this one over to you so you could just nerd out over it.
Okay. So, next arc, Soul Society arc. Oh boy. Best arc in the entire series, in my opinion. But, anyways. Renji and his... not Renji, gosh dang it. Ichigo and his friends enter the Soul Society with a cat named Yoruichi, who is also mentioned, who also comes up in the first arc, the the substitute arc. And they enter through means of using a giant cannon to blast a hole in this Serete. That's in our name for the Soul Society, and they break through the barrier of the Serete because their original method, trying to get through the gate, did not work because a captain stopped them and named Gin. Find out about him later. All right. And throughout this entire arc, there are several battles that are really, really good. Specifically, Ichigo versus Renji, Ichigo versus Kenpachi, and Ichigo versus Byakuya. All right. Ichigo versus Renji. That fight shows how Ichigo learns to become resolved in a certain thing, because if you're not resolved in battle and your mind is racing and you're not focused on what you want, you will ultimately die. Basically, it's the message of that fight. So when Ichigo finally resolves the fact that he wants to kill Renji and save Rukia, he literally defeats Renji and breaks, he slashes so hard that he shatters Renji's sword, Zabimaru, to pieces. And with that, Renji, as he's falling down, blood splattering everywhere, he scratches Ichigo's shirt and he says, I was wrong about you, yada yada yada. Only you can save Rukia. Please save Rukia. I was wrong about this entire situation. And he falls down about to die. Luckily, he survives, obviously, because he's one of the main characters, but that's beside the point. Now, Ichigo versus Kenpachi. That
Plot
fight...
armor.
Huh?
Plot armor.
Ichigo has a lot of plot armor, let's just say that. Next fight is Ichigo and Kenpachi. Ichigo versus Kenpachi is a fight that is raw and brutal. Now, I will say that Ichigo versus Renji had its brutal moments, but it's not as bloody and as I hate to use this word, but it's very feral. You know what I'm saying? Because raw instincts come out in that one. So, because Kenpachi is a man of war, and he is like bloodthirsty. He wants to fight no matter what. That's just his main goal. It's just to fight and to win. Okay? So, during the fight, there's literally a scene where Ichigo feels the spiritual pressure of Kenpachi, and it's so intense that he thinks that he's literally stabbed in the back by Kenpachi. Like literally his sword goes right through him. He's like, what? But it's only because of how intense and powerful Kenpachi is. It's just like a representation of that and all that. Kenpachi fights Ichigo, and he thinks that since his sword is only in its what's the word I'm looking for? It's not in its Shikai, that its sword is not going to get any more powerful. And he's proven wrong, because literally Kenpachi literally breaks his sword in two by literally Ichigo's blocking him with Zangetsu on sideways like this. He's like holding it sideways like this, and Kenpachi literally, his sword is so strong, even not in his Shikai form, that he punctures a hole in it and literally stabs Ichigo in the chest, and Zangetsu shatters into two pieces. So with that, Ichigo sees Zangetsu as Kenpachi's walking away from him. I will give screenshots for some of these scenes and all that. Screenshots and manga panels for the scenes I'm talking about in the editing. And so in that moment, Zangetsu asks him one question. He says, do you want to fight? Or do you want to live? Or do you want to win? Those three options. And Ichigo says, I want to win. That winning is the only thing that matters to me right now. I want to win and save Rukia. So, Zangetsu takes Ichigo into his inner world, where we are introduced to Hollow Ichigo for the first time. Alright? Hollow Ichigo is a black and white version of Ichigo that is psychotic and ridiculous, okay? And then Ichigo fights Hollow Ichigo with a unnamed Zanpakuto, which is basically a basic katana, versus Zangetsu, who is powerful, and literally, like, you can feel his aura of Zangetsu and how powerful he is, because he says, this sword is literally like a wooden stick compared to Zangetsu, and I never took the time to understand my sword's potential and its techniques and all that stuff. So Ichigo pleads with Zangetsu while he's about to get slaughtered by Hollow Ichigo, and he says, let me fight with you one more time. Give me one more chance. And the moment he says that, and he opens his eyes, Zangetsu is back in his hands, and he goes back to out of his inner world and fights Kenpachi. All right? And he does win, but at a great cost. Because Kenpachi, at the final slash, in the final moment, Kenpachi literally has his sword literally stuck in Ichigo's side, and he rips it out, and you see all the blood and everything. It's quite graphic. Alright. Fight number 3. Ichigo versus Byakuya. Now, there's two instances of this, because one instance, this is before Ichigo learns Bankai, thinking that he can take on Byakuya, but Yoruichi, the cat that we find out is actually a black woman, who is actually kind of cool, in my opinion. I like Yoruichi as a character. And Yoruichi, she
Wait, how is she a cat?
She can turn to a cat.
Huh.
That's just one of her abilities. She can turn to a cat. It's never really explained. That's one thing that's never explained in Bleach, in my opinion. So, anyways, Yoruichi stops Ichigo from fighting Byakuya by stabbing him in the chest, because his wounds are still not fully healed anyways. So, breaking his bandages and stabbing him in the chest to prevent him from being hurt by Byakuya. She uses a training dummy that puts Zangetsu's spirit of his sword into the real world, so he can actually train with Zangetsu and learn Bankai. And he does it in 3 days, which is, again, character armor. I don't care. Still epic. So the fight between Ichigo and Byakuya is kind of interesting. In the sense of, first off, he releases Bankai. He does think he can actually beat Byakuya with just a Shikai in the beginning, but then Ichigo realizes that he can't beat a Bankai with the Shikai, because Byakuya releases his Bankai, Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi, and he cannot evade the slicing petals of his sword fast enough. So he goes Bankai, one of the most epic scenes in Bleach ever. He just slams his foot into the ground, and you see him, he screams, all that stuff, typical anime style. And then he goes, Bon Kai. Then the ground literally breaks as his spirit energy is released, and there's a flash of energy. And then you see him with the black and red robe, his black katana. It's just like, oh yeah, this is what I live for. This is the stuff that I love. And then, however, Byakuya does get the upper hand on Ichigo, because Ichigo's still very new to his Bankai. As I said, he only trained for 3 days. So with that being said, Ichigo fighting Byakuya. Byakuya releases a new technique that he has never seen before called Senkei, Senban Zakura Kageyoshe, where a bunch of blades appear in the sky and to form a cage, basically. A rounded cylinder? Yeah, it's a cylinder cage. He says, do not worry. All these swords will not attack you at once, but you are basically in my domain now and you can't escape. So if you're going to fight me, you're going to have to kill me. So Ichigo fights Byakuya, continues, and then Ichigo is heavily injured in this battle, getting cut up and stuff, and Ichigo starts to slow down because of how injured he is at this point. So, in one instance, Byakuya literally sends down one of these pink swords from Senban Zakura, stabs him in the foot, and then shoots a beam of energy through his shoulder. And then Ichigo can't move at this point because he's so paralyzed and injured. And literally, then Byakuya holds up another sword, and he says, "This is the end for you, Ichigo Kurosaki." And then Ichigo screaming at himself in his head, "Move! Move, damn it, move! Have I come all this way for nothing?" And then, the moment Byakuya is about to cut him down, Hollow Ichigo appears again, and a half of a hollow mask starts to form on Ichigo's face, and he says, "I thought I told you already. It's a big issue for me if you get yourself killed." Then Byakuya asks him, "That's impossible. Who or what are you?" And then Hollow Ichigo just chuckles. He says, "You want to know who I am?" "I have." And he screams, "No name!" And they start going on a rampage, and he slashes Byakuya, its chest and everything. And he's just running around and doing all kinds of stuff, and he throws a black Getsuga. Getsuga is one of Ichigo's moves that his sword can do. Forgot to mention that, but he throws a black Getsuga at Byakuya, and he's, by the end of it, Byakuya's ornatal hair thingies are shattered on top of his head, and he's literally panting. He's like, I don't understand this. Who or what are you? And then Hollow Ichigo tells him it doesn't matter, because by the time I'm finished with you, and he gets cut off, and then Ichigo says disappear, and then he literally rips off the hollow mask as he's fighting his inner demon, and and then Byakuya's like, "I'm not gonna question what that was, but either of us don't have a lot of strength left, so we'll finish this off with one final attack." All right. So then Ichigo and Byakuya clash one more time, and then before they clash, he actually says, "If you succeed in defeating me, I will answer why I would not save Rukia." Because that's the whole point of this entire arc, is to save Rukia from the clutches of the Soul Society and being executed. Alright? So, Ichigo wins that battle, and Byakuya flees, because he's heavily injured and about to die. And then Ichigo falls, Orihime, one of Ichigo's friends, literally, he's about to fall down because of how injured he is. And then Orihime comes up and they fall into each other's heads. It's just a cute moment between them.
Wait. How injured is he?
What?
You keep saying because of how injured he is. I'm like, wait, how injured is he?
Yeah. I can't go into graphic detail. I don't want this video to be demonetized, okay?
I'm just messing with you, dude. Go ahead.
Okay. Alright, I'm almost done with the Soul Society arc, and I'm gonna skip ahead a few arcs and stuff. Alright, not gonna go into too much detail. Want to condense this at least to 1 hour, okay?
Okay.
Alright, so then we come to find out that there's a scandal within the entire Soul Society, because between the fight between Ichigo and Byakuya and the fights that Ichigo is having, there's a conspiracy that's going on that the Captain Squad 5, I believe, he's Squad 5. Sosuke Aizen is is murdered, supposedly. But we come to find out that he is using the powers of his Zanpakuto, Kyoka Suigetsu, which is I think like Shatter Earth Moon, something like that. It's flower. It has a weird name. Kyoka Suigetsu has the ability to do perfect hypnosis. It literally changes everything you see. If you look upon the sword, you are literally infected with it, basically, and you are hypnotized to whatever deems whatever deems Aizen does with his sword. All right. So, with that being said, the reason why Aizen faked his death was because he was trying to have Ukiyo executed into the right moment to find something known as the Hokyoku, or the breakdown sphere, translated to English. At least that's what the Viz manga says. The Hokyoku has the ability to break down the barrier between Hollows and Soul Reapers. And basically what it does is that it allows a Soul Reaper to hollowify and breaks the barrier between those two individuals. And that's how the Iran cars are made, which is in the next arc. So, since Ichigo is able to basically save Rukia, that thwarts Aizen's plan, because his original plan was for her to be destroyed by the Senkei. I believe that's what it's called, Senkei, which is a massive firebird that was going to basically turn Rukia into ashes and destroy her soul. Anyways, with that, Aizen comes to the Sokyoku Hill. No, the Senkei. No, Senkei was. It's the Sokyoku. That's right. Sokyoku was the bird. Senkei is something with Byakuya. That's one of his moves. Anyways, he comes to Sokyoku Hill, takes Rukia by force, and extracts the Hokyoku from her soul, because that's where it was hidden by Kisuke to protect it. All right. And then Aizen basically, everyone tries to stop Aizen. He's more powerful than them, and yada yada yada. He escapes, and that's the end of the Soul Society arc. Okay, Arrancar arc. We have like 2 or 4 more to go, but we're good. I'll be quick. Arrancar arc. Bunch of people, bunch of Arrancars. Arrancars are the basically the Soul Reaper Hollow hybrid. All right. And there's Ukiura, Gremjiao, and who's the other one? And basically the Soul Reapers fight between the Arrancars for a while. Ichigo fights against Gremjiao. He loses. His Hollow tries to take control of him again, and he's trying to get it under control, but he can't. So he goes to these people known as the Vizards. Vizards are the flip opposite of Arrancars. Okay? Because Arrancars have Zanpakutos, but they're more human, but they're and stuff like that. Well, how do I put this? I'm trying to explain it in a way that's actually accurate to the story. Arrancars are basically hollows with soul reaper powers, while anyone in the comments who can explain this better, they can gladly do so. While Vizards are Soul Reapers with hollow masks that allow them to hollowify. All right. So with that, Ichigo goes to the Vizards to say, "Hey, I have this problem. Please help me and help me control this inner demon I have." Ichigo goes back into his inner world, finds out the old man Zangetsu is not there, and white version of Ichigo is there, and he has to fight him and learns this whole thing about instinct, yada yada yada. I'll put all that stuff up on the screen. Then Ichigo fights Gremjiao again. He is about to win, but his hollow mask cracks because he can only use it for 7 seconds. Blah blah blah. Then let's move on to the Wake Mundo arc. All right, because just a bunch of battles. That's basically all it is with the manga arc. Wake Mundo arc. Wake Mundo is the basically like the realm of the hollows, basically. And in Wake Mundo, Orihime is captured by Aizen through Ukiura, and she is taken to Wake Mundo. And with that, Ichigo has to take a small party, which his friends Uryu, Chad, and Ichigo with Ruki and Renji. They go to Wakamundo to try and rescue Orihime, which is a very similar arc to the Soul Society arc, having to rescue. It's a very kind of repeated story, same kind of genre, if that makes sense. Rukia had to be rescued, and now it's Orihime, damsel in distress kind of deal. But
So it's just kind of repeat at this point.
It is a repeat, but I'll give a credit to him. He had to do what he had to do to do it. But I'm not gonna say that means it's a good thing, because it is a repeat, basically. However, the characters are different and there is some different elements to it. So it is unique, just the same genre. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So Ichigo fights Grimjow. All right. And with that, he defeats Grimjow, but then Noitora, another, which is one of the Espada. Espada are the elites of Aizen's Arankars. Noitora cuts down Grimjow, and then we find out that more Soul Reapers came into Wakamundo to help take down Aizen, such as Byakuya, Kenpachi, and Retsu Unohana. Then there's a massive fight between Noitora and Kenpachi. Noitora loses. Kenpachi literally creams him. It's ridiculous. He cuts him down to size because he's really very cocky. Noitora literally screams, "I can't die," but then Kenpachi uses Kendo literally to cut him down, and he dies. Then after that, Ichigo fights Ukiura. Ukiura is one of the scariest beings that Ichigo has had to fight to date, in my opinion, because Ukiura has two release states. His Zanpakuto's release state, which is Misar Logo, and then his Segunda Etapa form, which is his second release state, where he literally turns into a black and green demon. It's ridiculous. So at this point, Ichigo is again battered and bruised and bleeding and heavily injured again, and Ukiura blasts a hole in his chest, and Orihime tries to heal him, but then she's overpowered by Ukiura, and Uryu is also overpowered by Ukiura. So he hears Orihime crying, saying, "Save me, Ichigo, what do I do? What do I do?" And then Ichigo goes full demon mode, known as Vasta Lorde, and he literally becomes a massive demon himself, like Ukiura, beats Ukiura to a pulp, and Ukiura, technically it wasn't Ichigo who killed Ukiura, it was Hollow Ichigo who killed Ukiura. In fact, Ichigo only kills, I think, one or two people in the entire series, actually. That just shows how much of a pacifist he is. Anyways, after the fight...
Yeah, I'm a pacifist. I'm about to pass this fist across your face.
Nice. That's awesome. Alright. Fate Karakura Town Arc, which is between Downfall of the Arankar, which is what I mentioned. All the Soul Reapers try to fight against Aizen, basically, and they fail miserably. And then all of the head captains and stuff get to the point where even head captain Yamamoto, who's literally changed for thousands of years, can't withstand against Aizen because his main weapon, Wanderwise, literally explodes and takes him out of the battle. Then Ichigo comes to try and fight Aizen, but then he's overpowered again too. And then we go into the people call it the Decide arc. It's just a small, like, 13 chapter arc where Ichigo fights Aizen and learns the final Getsuga Tensho. And the funny thing is that Ichigo doesn't even defeat Aizen. It's actually not Ukiura. It's Urahara who defeats Aizen. The guy with the hat and clogs. That's literally his nickname, hat and clogs. Okay. Aizen fuses with the Hokyoku. Gin, we find out, is actually a good guy, even though we think he's a bad guy. He tries to stop Aizen himself. Aizen rips off his arm and skewers him with his sword, yada yada yada. Then Ichigo comes in with longer hair, and his hand is fused with his sword, fights Aizen, does the final Getsuga Tensho, trying to cut Aizen in half, but then he regenerates. Then Urahara comes into the place and then seals away Aizen. Whatever. All right, 2 more arcs and we're done. Almost done. Okay.
My head hurts.
I know.
Too much information.
It's never
So
SpongeBob.
you said this started in 2001
Yeah.
and went on to 2018.
Yes.
That's a lot of watching.
Well, here's the thing. Specifically with Bleach is that there was filler arcs between the canon because there's many instances where the anime caught up to the manga in terms of production, and they were and they couldn't keep up. If that makes sense. Personally, I think the anime should have started in like 2004 instead of 2001, but that's beside the point. Actually, no, it did start in 2000. No, the anime started in 2003 or 2004, but then when most of the canon of the anime was already done in the manga, I think like it was near the end of the Soul Society arc when the anime started. You know what I'm saying? So it kept on catching up with itself, so they had to make filler and stuff, and that's one of the biggest complaints in the police community. So the filler is not that good, which we'll get to the filler in just a second, briefly. So, all right, 2 more arcs of the canon, then we'll talk about filler, and then I'll be done. Okay. Okay. So, with the now we're on to the Lost Agent arc, which Ichigo loses his powers by using the final Getsuko Tensho. This is all of his Soul Reaper powers, okay? And he lives the life of a normal teenager for 2 years. When now he's 17 years old because of the time skip. Okay, so with that, he does feel very, very different now that he's lost his Soul Reaper powers, and he can't see ghosts anymore either. He finds someone named Kukoji Ginjo, who comes to him saying, "I can give you new power. I can't give you your Soul Reaper powers back, but I can give you a power known as Full Bring. And we can unlock it because I know you have the ability to do so." And he brings him to this place where he meets other Full Bringers. In fact, Chad himself, his power is a Full Bring, as we come to find out later. So his power is a Full Bring. Then Ichigo unlocks 3 new abilities, which they do. Which is first his Soul Reaper Combat Bass, which is given to him at the end of the Soul Society arc, which helps him get out of his physical body and allows him to transform into a Soul Reaper, and uses that to basically like use energy beams and stuff like that from it, yada yada yada. Then he has what is that? Basically a flowing kimono, which looks like his old kimono he used to wear as a Soul Reaper, but it's made out of Full Bring energy. Then his final Full Bring, which is where he looks like a white Power Ranger. Or Super Sentai, as we say in Japan. Then we come to find out that Ginjo was lying to Ichigo the entire time and just used him to get his Full Bring powers so he could become more powerful. Okay. We come to find out that Ginjo was the first substitute Soul Reaper before Ichigo. And Ichigo basically took his place. He's jealous, yada yada yada, or something like that. Don't know the full details because it's not fully explained. So he steals Ichigo's Full Bring powers, transfers them to him, yada yada yada. Then Ichigo's stabbed with another sword, which is literally fused with the Soul Reaper essence of so many people.
Stabbed, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. He has a thing for getting stabbed. I know. And then which has the essence of and the spiritual pressures of literally almost every captain in the Soul Society. He gets his Soul Reaper powers back, beats Ginjo's ass, kills him. As I said, one of the only people he kills in Bleach. He kills Ginjo because he's too much of a threat. Yada yada yada. Epic battle. That's how that ends. All right. There's other characters I didn't mention. Not relevant. All right. Final arc. The 1,000-Year Blood War. Oh boy. Okay. So, Ichigo now has his powers back, and he starts fighting Hollows again, because that's his thing, is stick substitutes over fighting Hollows. We come to find out that the Quincy's, which are the opposite of Soul Reapers, they use bows and arrows instead of swords, are at war now with the Soul Reapers. And their god, Yuhabaha, declares war on them, yada yada yada. And there's just so much in this arc to cover, but how do I put this and condense it? Trying to think. Ichigo finds out that his sword is not his true version of a sword. In fact, we find out the old man Zangetsu was actually Ichigo's Quincy powers because his mother was a Quincy and his dad was the Soul Reaper. And in that regard, and then he has this Zanpakuto reforged. He has 2 blades instead of 1 katana. Renji has a similar situation, but his sword was not given his full name because his Zanpakuto didn't trust him. Stuff like that. We find out Rukia's Bankai, which is Tatego Togami, I think is its name. And we deal with the Stern Ritter. The Stern Ritter are essentially like how the Arankar are to Aizen, but they are basically the Arankar equivalent to Yuhabaha. So I'm going to skip a whole bunch of stuff. Epic battle between Ichigo, Yuhabaha. We're given it hasn't been animated yet, unfortunately, in the anime. They're working on it as we speak. It's coming out in July of this year. And I hope they change this because it was really poorly written, in my opinion, in the manga. But anyways, there's a thing known as Still Silver. It's an arrowhead that allows to stop all of Yuhabaha's powers for like 10 to 30 seconds. All right, and that arrow is shot at Yuhabaha by Uryu. I think it was either Uryu or his dad, Ryukin, one of the two. And then Yuhabaha's powers are stopped for one instant. Ichigo cuts him in half. He dies. Society is saved. And then 10 years pass. Rukia is a captain. Ichigo's a dad. We see Ichigo's son, and then Rukia and Renji, because they get together in the end. Rukia and Renji's daughter interact with Ichigo's son. He says, "I'm a Soul Reaper too," and they have an altercation. She's like, "What?" And that's how the story ends. So that's Bleach in a nutshell.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Why is it called Bleach?
There's several reasons, actually. One, because bleach in Japanese can translate to black on white. All right? And that represents the kimonos that the Soul Reapers wear. Number 2, Soul Reapers cleanse hollows. How bleach cleanses things. Makes it white. Cleanse hollows of their sins. That's one reason also why it's called Bleach. And number 3, because Tate Kubo's favorite album is by Nirvana and it's called Bleach.
Yeah, I remember when you were telling me so much about Bleach and you said you had to watch it, so I whipped out the Clorox and stared at it for 20 minutes and I just couldn't understand it.
Yes, we've established this. I understand. You watched Clorox for 20 minutes like a moron because you did not understand Bleach.
I just took the time. I was serious. I just looked at that Clorox, just anticipating something to happen, and I'm just like, I don't get the hype.
I understand.
Okay, it actually would be so funny if someone did do a parody and literally called it Clorox.
It would be, yeah.
That would actually be pretty funny.
I think once we get together again, we could actually do something like that where we have a bunch of special effects and have Clorox bottles of lightsabers or something in the After Effects and just do Clorox. You know what I mean? Just something goofy just to rip off Bleach.
That would be funny.
Okay, so quickly I'm going to mention the fillers real quick, and then I'll end it, and then we can end it off. All right.
Well, before you mention the fillers, one of the things that I was actually wanting us to nerd about is why exactly do you love this so much?
Why do I love it? Because it's I love Bleach specifically because I relate to Ichigo as a character. I've mentioned this before in other episodes, but specifically because he's a teenager on the verge of adulthood and he wants to be something. And I strive to be like Ichigo because his main goal is to protect his family and his friends. That's literally the entire premise of the entire series. And I want to be like that. I want to be manly. I want to do the right thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also because I love all the lore with the swords and how you have to learn your Zanpakuto's name, all of that stuff. And also it's gritty, it's has its own stylization of violence. It has so much good elements to it, and it's a really great, really written story. The mind of Tite Kubo, the author of Bleach, is a gem to behold. You know what I'm saying? It's the same thing like with Stan Lee and Steve Ditko and how they created Spider-Man, all the Marvel characters. Those minds are something to behold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So Bleach and also Bleach is something that's just kept me, sane. You know what I'm saying? It's just something I can hold on to and say, hey, I enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Same thing with how you are with GI Joe. You hold GI Joe to a high standard.
Well,
Not a high standard, but you know what I mean.
I don't think I nerd out to G.I. Joe as much as you nerd out to Bleach per se.
That's a fair
But
assessment, but you know what I mean.
like, no, I'll definitely explain more on why. Well, here's the I mean, I love, like I said, and it's not just G.I. Joe. I love Lord of the Rings.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Bible really is probably my like favorite story of all time.
Of course.
Uh, but like, I mean, there's definitely other fandoms and other like franchises that I enjoy.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'll save that for the next episode. But needless to say, yeah, I think you nerd out over Bleach more than I do G.I. Joe.
I understand, but it is something that you do enjoy.
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying.
No. I'm just saying as a franchise, it's something you really do enjoy and something you can say, hey, I enjoy this, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really wish the movies would finally. I really wish Paramount would get the movies right.
Yeah.
At least Bleach, because at least you say Bleach has a pretty decent movie.
Oh, the live action film? Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah. I give it a solid 7.5 out of 10. There are a few things that were not that they had to change and stuff like that, but they stick to the source material pretty well, in my opinion. So, in that regard, talking about the fillers real quick. So there's the Bounce arc, god awful. The Shusuke Amagai arc, the Zanpakuto Rebellion arc, and the Invading Armies arc. Okay, Bounce arc. The only reason they did that, in my opinion, and basically from my research, is to get a cash grab. Because the exact same period where they released that, Twilight came out. And guess what Bounce are?
Vampires.
Yep, pretty much like vampires. They are literally almost exactly like vampires. Vampires with weird powers. That's it. So
did what's the author's name again?
Tite Kubo?
Did he write these filler arcs, or did somebody else write them?
Somebody else did. He was not. He didn't have. I don't think he has as much supervision on the original anime compared to the Thousand Year Blood War as he does now. Because the Thousand Year Blood War, he's supervising everything. I don't know if he had. I think he had some supervision, but not full. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I heard that's very common within a lot of animes, because there are some animes that do stick very well to the source material, and there are some that will go completely off, and the creators most of the time don't even have really any say so.
Yeah, so I'm assuming that Tite Kubo didn't, unfortunately. But then we get on to the Shusuke Amagai arc, which that was alright, 7 out of 10. Then we had the Zanpakuto Rebellion arc, best filler arc by far in the entire anime, because it actually is technically canon too, but is filler. It's canon now because of the Thousand Year Blood War, but it was filler at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, and then the Invading Armies arc. That one, or the Ray Guy arc. That one's alright. I give that an 8 out of 10. But if I have any advice for anyone who wants to watch Bleach and read Bleach, just skip the Bound arc. It's god awful. Just there's only one.
Just the first filler arc. Just completely skip it.
Yeah, just completely skip it. Just don't even bother. It's just god awful. Because the only good thing in that arc, in my opinion, is when Ichigo goes full hollow, well, not full hollow, but where he goes half hollow mask again and stuff like that, and how Ichigo comes out. That's the only instance that's actually good in that arc, in my opinion. But so that is Bleach for the most part. There is a one-shot chapter called No Breaths from Hell, which is which is the continuation after the 1,000 Year Blood War, after the time skip, and then Ichigo and his friends have to deal with another threat, which is just a one-shot chapter. It's just like 30 or 50 pages. It was pretty good. I've read some of it. Then there's four animated movies, which is Memories of Nobody, The Diamond Dust Rebellion, Fade to Black, and Hellverse. My favorite movie of all time, as I said before, is Bleach Hellverse.
Was the author involved with those?
Yes, he was involved in those. Yes. So, yeah.
It's one of those set.
Huh?
What timeline are those set in?
I believe Memories of Nobody was during, it's like a time period in between the Rancor arc and the Wake Mundo arc, I believe. And then Hellverse is after Aizen and after Wake Mundo, so in between the downfall of the Rancor and the Fulbrand arc. And then I don't know about the Diamond Dust Rebellion and Fade to Black. Those are unclear to me. But they're still
So
great
essentially, none of them are. So none of them are after 1,000 Year Blood War. All of them are before this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 1,000 Year Blood War is essentially supposed to be the end of the whole Bleach.
At least the canon, yes. And then there's one more chapter after that, which was released years later in Shonen Jump. But it's canon, yes, but it's just a one-shot chapter.
Yeah. Just something a little. Hey, here's a little something for you fans, essentially.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, as you can see, I have two posts. Well, that's just some printer paper with Ichigo on it, but I have a scroll poster of Ichigo right there. Ichigo, and also I'm wearing a Bleach t-shirt, as you can see.
Yeah.
Bleach for me is just something that I just hold on to because I would say it's a little bit of addiction. I need to cut back just a little bit, sure, because you know how things are in your life. You need to sometimes cut back on certain things, whatever it may be. Entertainment, it can be one of them, which I can bring up as actually a topic for this podcast, is that don't let something in your life get to between you and your relationship with God. From what I see with me, Bleach doesn't get in the way with my relationship with God. I don't hold Bleach to above God. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, as much as I nerd out about it, as much as I love it, it should not be an idol. Okay? Do not let anything in your life become an idol. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's the key takeaway I think we should have. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. There are more important things.
Mm-hmm.
Just like we mentioned in one of our earlier episodes, as much as we advocate for storytelling and show how much storytelling matters,
Mm-hmm.
there are more important things, such as your faith, your family,
Mm-hmm.
all that cool stuff.
Yeah. So, we're almost at the 1 hour mark. I think I did good.
I thought we went over an hour.
No, we're about 55 minutes in.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've ranted about Bleach for almost an hour. Lovely.
All right.
I'll give you the.
I'm not sure. The thing is, I'm not sure if I'll be able to condense G.I. Joe within an hour, because with with Bleach, it's easy. You got one writer and it's one continuous. With G.I. Joe, there are so many different writers and so many different versions.
I see.
So I'm not going to summarize each version like you have with Bleach, because that would take too long. Two, it's actually, I've been reading them through the span of like 9 years. So, tell you the truth, I'm probably going to go back and read some.
Sure.
So that way I can remember some of it.
Yeah.
Before I just start talking out my butt. But yeah.
I wasn't talking out of my butt. I literally have the entire manga right down there.
I know. I just.
So, in that regard, so are you gonna just pick out some key stories out of it mainly?
Yeah, I'll essentially just pick out the key stories and how they've differed from how they've different in each version. I'll even talk about some of the TV shows. I'll talk about the cultural impact they've had.
Yeah.
And talk about the movies and stuff like that. And like I said, and mainly I will just talk about why I like it,
Mhm.
why I love it, and also talk about some upcoming JoJo projects. But yeah,
Sure, that's fine. And we'll try and do it the same thing with mine and try to condense it within an hour if we can.
yeah, yeah.
But if you but
I'll
if you
try to condense it there now.
yeah, but if you go a little bit over, it's totally fine.
Okay, yeah.
So, but in that regard, look
We're
out
probably
for
going to need 2 hours for Lord of the Rings.
yeah, we can go for 2
I
hours
know,
for
I know. We can make it 4 hours and 50 minutes, just like the extended cut of Return of the King.
I don't know if my computer could handle that.
I know. I'm just kidding.
Specifically though, we how about you guys look out for our next episode where Sam geeks out about GI Joe, and I hope you guys have enjoyed me talking about Bleach because I can go on and on about this stuff. It's so much fun in my head. So, and also our next episode after that, we will be talking about Lord of the Rings, and we have more episodes to come. So be on the lookout for those.
Yeah,
All right, shall we do the outro?
exactly.
All right,
You-
I'll do it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode of Cross Blades Podcast, where we talk about faith, pop culture, and everything in between, and Bleach. We will see you guys
Yep.
on the flip side. See ya.
Bye.